How many times in life can you remember an instance where you just knew you were supposed to do something, but you hesitated? You knew it in your heart, but you hesitated. For whatever reason, you just that split second. Am I really supposed to do that? What's this person going to think? Can I even do that? I'm not good enough to do that. God, why are you asking me to do that? Because I can't do that. And you just hesitate. And in that moment, you miss it. Just that split second, you miss it. I call that the McFly syndrome. What if I fail? I just don't think I can handle that type of rejection. All you Back to the Future fans. But seriously, don't we tell ourselves that sometimes? We're not good enough. We can't do this. I just don't think I can handle that. I can remember times, in my life personally when God has asked me to do something or specifically or to share something with someone or pray something with somebody. And I have that moment of hesitation, and you guys know, is that me or is that God? God, are you really speaking that to me? Because I don't know. They're going to think I'm weird, God. And so I'll be praying this stuff, and just in a split second, and I look up, and somebody else is already doing it. And come to find out, what God had spoke to me to pray or to share, usually is what that person prays or shares. That moment of hesitation, I missed out. That moment of hesitation that was, God had asked me to do. God had asked me to be a part. When a fighter hesitates, they usually miss the opportunity to strike. All you MMA fans, and I've said boxing, but when I really got to thinking about it, actually off the cuff this morning, in MMA it's even a little bit more because it's not just, one punch. It could be anything that they do. Just that moment that they see an opening, they have to take it. They have to strike. And if they don't, they usually get struck. Just as quick as that opening is there to see that hole and to make that move, it closes just that fast. The other day I was thinking about football, Coach Swafford, and the running back. And, running backs are taught, to hit that hole fast and then react. Well, a lot of times if you miss the hole the first time, it's going to close up and you're not going to get a second time. You hit that fast and then you react to whatever opening is there. And it's not something you can just stop and scratch your head. Well, should I go right or should I go left? Because you'll get met really hard by a linebacker really quick. Hesitation. It's a big deal. The warrior in battle who hesitates is the most vulnerable warrior of all. We're in this series called Warrior on the Front Lines. Our verse for this, we've taken out of Ephesians chapter 6. We'll read it to you. We'll put it on the screen here really quick. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Battles happen. It's part of life. You're going to have them. I'm going to have them. People will be involved. Your friends, your family, strangers, co-workers, they're going to be involved. But sometimes we make the battle about them, and we take the battle to them, and we forget to recognize that the core and the root of our battle is not from that person or that individual or that circumstance. It's from Satan himself trying to disrupt our lives in any way that he can. Remember, we said that he's here to steal, kill, and destroy everything about your life, everything in your life. That's his intent. And in this battle, a warrior who hesitates is the most vulnerable warrior of all. We're going to Judges chapter 6. It's a real manly story today. It really is. And we're going to start in verse 11. And the scripture says this: The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. Gideon was a warrior. He was created to be a warrior. But in this moment, he was not acting like a warrior. In fact, he was pretty much acting like a sissy. And so here he was, and these Midianites, they were bad people, and they'd come in, and they were trying to disrupt the Israelites' life, and they stole from them, they talked bad about them, all of this stuff. And so God sends this angel, the angel of the Lord comes to speak to him, this warrior, and he's over here hiding in probably what was a cave or some kind of cutout, they call it a wine press, so he could keep all of this stuff hidden. He was hiding, trying to protect everything, but he wasn't being who God had created him to be. He was a warrior, but he'd become passive. And he just surrendered to the idea in this moment that they were always going to be under the Midianites' control. And so God spoke to him through this angel. And verse 12 says, when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Now, knowing the context of this story and reading verse 11 first, you're thinking, I'm thinking that the angel is looking at somebody totally other than Gideon at this moment, because that's the last thing that he appears to be, is a warrior. Gideon didn't look like it, but God said he was. And you see, when God looks at man, he doesn't see the man as he is. He sees him as he could and should become. A person will often say, well, here I am in life. This is all I'm ever going to do. And this is all I'm ever going to be. To me, that's one of the scariest places that anyone can ever get to. It is one of the scariest places that any of us could ever get to. Well, this is it. All I'm ever going to be. All I'm ever going to do. This is just who I am. I'm just going to get whipped every day. You could be one of these people that Satan's just left, right. And you just kind of settled for getting whipped. That's reality for a lot of people. And man, when we get to that place, we miss out on so much. Because see, this life that we've been given, it's a daily thing. We're not, we have to work at it. God's a God of free choice. But listen, the choices that we make, help us get to that place that God has intended for us to become who God has intended for us to become. But God doesn't look at you and see what you do. He often sees what you can do. He doesn't see you just as you are, but as you should become. There's a great illustration in a story in the New Testament. Jesus was talking to Peter, and Peter was one of these guys that, 1 minute Peter, man, he had it going on and he did everything right and he made good choices, and 30 seconds later he blew it. Peter had some big opportunities in his life to stand up and say and do the right thing, and boy, you would think that he's going to do it, and he would say that he was going to do it, and the next minute he just fall flat on his face. But in the middle of this life, in the middle of this ministry, Jesus looks at him and says, "Hey, Peter, man, you're going to be the rock." The rock. He's looking at Peter. He messed up. You're going to be the rock. And on this rock, I will build my church. See, in that moment, Peter probably didn't see himself as that. People around Peter definitely didn't see him as that. But what Jesus saw the man that preached the very first message ever preached. What Jesus saw was 3,000 people getting saved and giving their life to him. And what he saw was to follow. Because he didn't see necessarily where Peter was in that moment. And I happen to believe he knew Peter was going to deny him and that he was going to continue to mess up. But he saw who Peter was created to be. The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Now, some people might look at you today and say, but you don't look like a warrior in this area of your life or this area of your life. Look like you're hiding in a wine press. Some of you may think that that's what you are. But God would say, I'm not just looking at what others see, I'm looking at what I put inside of you. And remember, you have the heart of a warrior. The scripture I shared last week in Exodus chapter 15, verse 3, it says, the Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name. The Bible says that we were created in the image of God. Therefore, those characteristics are placed inside of us. If he is a warrior, that means you have the heart of a warrior in you. It's in you. It's his image. You're created in his image. He is a warrior, so are you. That is something, I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to grab a hold of first and tell ourselves and believe the fact that we are a warrior. What do we know about a warrior? We learned last week about Jesus, the greatest warrior of all time. We discovered that every warrior, every good warrior has a cause to fight for. There's just something in you that desires to fight for something that is righteous, something that is true, something that is right, something that is good. It is inside of you. But too many times, so many people, that what's inside of us, we're there and we're like, yeah, that should be done, and we should say this, and we should do that. But then we sit back and we do nothing. We do nothing. We expect somebody else to do it and somebody else to take care of it. But the passion was put inside of you by God, but yet we squash that passion and we go hide in the cave, we hide in the wine press because we don't think that we have what it takes to stand up and make a difference, to win the battle, to do the things that God has asked us to do. Every warrior has this cause. Gideon's cause, as we learned through it, was to save Israel out of the hands of the Midianites. The challenge is because we have this divine desire to fight, but if we're not fighting for the right cause, we end up fighting for the wrong cause in the right way. We talked about that. All that does is get us and other people in trouble. And without the right cause to fight for, sometimes you end up fighting the wrong battle, and we become dangerous. Now, just to recognize that an emotion that most all warriors have is fear. Fear. It is an emotion that we all have. Fear. Fear of what lies ahead. Fear of the uncertain. Fear of the unknown. Fear of this. Fear of that. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Our enemies. Fear, it's gripping, it's stifling, it's life-altering, it stops you dead in your tracks and can be one of the most controlling things in our lives. The number one fear of people, still to this day, is the fear of speaking in public. It is the greatest fear that according to, all these whatever, is speaking in public. Number two is dying. And that one's an obvious because it is an unknown, right? I mean, you don't get to try it usually and come back and then try it again. It's just, but speaking in public, number one. Well, the number one fear of a fighter, number one fear of a warrior in any cause, in any case, and we're going to talk about that today, is failure. It's failure. The fear of failing. The fear of not being good enough. The fear of falling just short. Every warrior, at least occasionally, fears it. Even the most courageous, bold-looking warriors of all before battle or in the middle of battle start to wonder, wait a minute, do I have what it takes? Am I good enough? Can I really conquer this? Can I really do this? Sometimes even the most confident, and when I say that, maybe overly confident and what we would probably say as cocky people. Most of the time that's just a front. They're usually some of the least confident people that I have ever met. And it's just to mask their fear of whatever it might be, but definitely a failure. They don't want to fall short. They have an absolute, overwhelming fear of failing, of not being good enough. So let's put on the front or put on the mask that says, I'm more than good enough. But in reality, their life is just such a disruption. It's such chaos. The most insecure. Do I have what it takes? Every warrior fears failure. If we continue on in our story, actually we're going to jump ahead and then I'm going to come back. God says, hey, I want you to go deliver my people. He says this to Gideon. And then in verse 15, I believe he reveals his insecurity and he says this, but Lord, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh and I am the least in my family. He says, how in the world do you expect me to do this? Because I come from the weakest people. They're not good enough. And not only are they not good enough, I'm the weakest one of the whole bunch. Why are you asking me to do this? Why are you calling me a warrior? Because I'm the farthest thing from a warrior. I am like the weak of the weak. Why is it that so many people are so afraid to fail? I mean, think about that. Why is it that we are so afraid to try something and fail? I believe because it's final. Failure is, we perceive it as being a final thing, an absolute. Now listen, I hate to lose. I absolutely can't stand to lose at anything. Nothing. I don't care what it is. I can't stand it. For the very first time in my life, the very first time in my life, I was outfished by my oldest son this year. Okay, he whipped me one night. And I'm sitting elbow to elbow in the same boat, in the same patch of water, throwing the same thing into the same location. I would reel, nothing. He would reel, oh, got another one, Dad. There was even one time, and he could tell I'm getting mad, that he's reeling, and oh, missed it. Oh, there he is. Got him. Really? Now, I love spending time with my kids. I was mad. To me, now this is not something that was taught to me. Growing up as an athlete, I mean, my parents always supported me, but, just to be honest, they weren't somebody that pushed me in all these, they pretty much just chased me. Something inside of me. Second place for me was never good enough. It just wasn't. I love to compete. I love to win. And if I don't, it just doesn't, And I can't do the things that I used to do. I was pretty good. I'm not being boastful, but I was. I was pretty good at the things that I did. I can't play basketball anymore. My wife absolutely prohibits me from playing softball. I am not allowed on a softball field anymore in my life. And that is a true story, and it is not an exaggeration. I mean, it is that serious, because she knows what I'll do. The last time I stepped on a softball field, I tore my hamstring, and I told you would do that. And it just, I can't do that anymore. I can't play football anymore, Coach Swafford. Although last night at graduation, we're walking across, getting ready to walk, and Mr. Henry says, I'll buy you supper, and we're on the goal line. He said, I'll buy you supper if you'll get down in a three-point stance and just take off sprinting to the 50-yard line. I said, I might get down, but I'll never get back up. But I love to compete. It's why I still play golf, because I can still compete. I can compete against myself. I still can compete against other people. And up until this year, I handled all that really well because I was pretty good. But this year, my body has begun to fail. And I'm having to relearn some things because, like my shoulder, it won't go back as far as it needs to go back. It just stops. And if I try to take it farther than it'll go, it tells me really quickly that I've went too far. So I'm having to relearn and adjust my swing, and it's not going well, and I'm frustrated because it's not good enough. That's just how I am. And why do it if I can't win? Second, might as well be last. But as a warrior, now listen to me. As a warrior, sometimes we get in that mentality. If I can't win, I ain't fighting. If I can't win, I ain't fighting. And can I just tell you, throughout history, there have been thousands and thousands and thousands of warriors who on the outside looked like they lost because ultimately they gave their life. But without that sacrifice, the war would have never been won. Sometimes I think, and I know I can never get close. But can you imagine? I watch those of you know I'm a history buff. I follow people that have served in our country. I have a long list of people in my family that have served and fought. Can you imagine what was going through a lot of 18-year-old men's lives? on the morning they stormed the beach at Normandy? Do you think there was fear inside of those duck boats and those transports? Do you think, I can't even imagine, the highest percentage of the first wave never made it. And for some people, you think, well, they didn't win. But they did. Sometimes, as spiritual warriors, we get into this mindset that we can't win. So what's the point of fighting? Those young men knew probably what their destiny was going to be. But yet they still chose to battle. Why? Because the cause was worth fighting. And for us, we sit back and then we don't do anything. We get it in our minds that we're not worth anything, or we can't do this. And sometimes what happens, it's like if a man struggles in his career, he doesn't just say, well, I'm having a tough time finding out about what to do with my life. He thinks I'm a failure. What's the use? If our family is struggling, we say, I'm a failure as a dad or a mom. I can't tell you the parents that I've sent across from. Even myself at sometimes with certain situations. Your kid makes a decision that you didn't teach them to make. And they go a direction that you didn't teach them to go. And then when they go that direction and they make that decision, we immediately take it out on ourselves. Oh, I'm a failure. I'm the worst dad and I'm the worst mom. Now listen, I understand that there are parents that don't invest in their kids the right way. But I'm speaking to the ones that do. And then we beat ourselves up for weeks and for months and sometimes years because, listen, kids grow up. They make their own choices. I stand by planting seeds in my kids and the fact that when a seed is planted, that someday it will grow. And if you train a child in the way that he should go, when he is older, he won't depart from it. It will mean something in their life. But it doesn't mean you're a failure as a parent. You need to let go of that label. Some of you today, you need to let go of that label that you have placed on yourself as a failure as a parent. We internalize this. And we believe, wrongly so, but we believe that our worth is based on our accomplishments. Well, if our kids turn out right, then I'm a good parent. If my kids turn out wrong, then I'm a bad parent. If we're accomplishing, we feel good. But if we don't, we feel insecure. We have bad thoughts about ourselves because every one of us, we fear failure. When our fear of failing becomes larger than our faith in God, we become hesitant. When our fear of failing becomes larger than our faith in God, we become hesitant. A good illustration of this also in the Bible, and I've shared this a couple weeks ago in our faith series, was when Jesus was walking across the water and the disciples seen him and they looked out and Peter recognized that it was Jesus. And he said, hey Jesus, can I do that? And Jesus said, sure, come on, get out of the boat. So Peter gets out of the boat, he's looking at Jesus and it's great. He's walking on water and then boom, thunder crashes, waves hit, winds blowing. And just for a second, boom, second. That's all it takes. Second, this became bigger than that. And he began to sink. And it doesn't take much. I mean, in really the way that the story reads, I have to believe that was a quick thing. He looked, boom, I'm in trouble. Jesus! That's it. Save me. Just that moment of hesitation, that moment of getting our focus off of who our focus is supposed to be on, and our fear of failing becomes larger than our faith in God. And maybe some of you today, very respectfully saying, have taken your eyes off of Christ, and you're looking at your own abilities, and you're saying, I may not have what it takes. And the truth is, you don't without Him. You don't without Him. I don't without Him. We don't have what it takes. And so our insecurities and our fear of failure is exceeding our faith in Christ, and we become hesitant. And that's why maybe in some area of your life, maybe you're sinking. Maybe you're struggling financially. And you've really been praying and battling, and then out of the blue, a new job opportunity pops up. Maybe this speaks to somebody today, I don't know, but that new job opportunity, and you're qualified. You could do it. You went to school for it maybe you've had a job prior. It'll pay more. I mean, it could get you to that place and really help you out, but you don't even apply because you're afraid. What if they don't like me? What if I don't get an interview? What if I just get my hopes up and I get let down? I know people who have done this. I know, and this particular thing, and they miss out. Was there a possibility that they wouldn't have got an interview? Sure. Was there a possibility that they would have got an interview and then been let down because somebody else got it? Sure. But guaranteed they're not going to get it if they didn't apply. Fear. I know a lot of young guys that want to be married someday. But to be married, you're going to have to ask somebody out. But you're scared to death to ask them out because you're scared they're going to say no. I'm not, don't go out and start asking everybody out. But you know what? If I believe God puts people together. Oh, I'm scared. I can't. I just don't. It's a McFly syndrome. I just don't think I could take that kind of rejection. Being told no isn't a bad thing. It really isn't. Sometimes we need to be told no, but you cannot be scared. Because who knows what's on the other side? Who knows when you can walk on water? Maybe you've been given a vision for a business, and deep down you'd love to try it. But you hesitate because maybe you think if I try and it doesn't work, well then, I'm going to be a failure. It's going to take a lot of money. How in the world am I going to be able to do this? And you don't even try. And maybe that vision and that dream came from God. And maybe that was something that God put inside of you because He wanted you to try. Oh God, I get that you're God and I get all of this stuff, but that's just too scary for me. I'm sorry. Maybe it's something as simple as serving in church. Maybe God's laid that on your heart. Could be with kids, could be cafe, could be in the wherever. And you're like, I just don't think I know enough. That'd be too hard. I just don't think they'll like me. And so what happens? You don't do it because of a fear of failure. And then you miss out on some amazing opportunities. And instead of doing what you were created to do, so many godly people hesitate. Instead of leading courageously, they become passive, hesitant warriors. Insecurity. Every warrior fears failure, but get this. The warrior empowered by God has what it takes. In this story, Gideon's freaked out. God speaks to him. And in verse 14, as I said, moving backwards, I think it fits better. God didn't get this out of order, but as I'm sharing this, the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand." That's a powerful statement. Go in the strength that you have. Don't go in what you think you need. Go in the strength that you have. Go with what I have given you. God says, I've already given you what you need. Am I not sending you? Will I not be with you? And so those are questions that I ask you and even ask myself today. Did God not speak it to you? Is He not sending to you or sending you to it? If it's Him and He's doing it, He's already given you what you need. He's already given me what I need to accomplish the things that are right there in front of me. I have it. You have it. It's there. So if He's speaking, is He leading you? Is He stirring you? If He is, then draw your sword and go to battle. Get after it. Why would we want to miss something that God has for us? Right there. You've got what it takes. Don't listen to every other voice, because when you take your eyes off of Him, the voices say you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not sharp enough, you're not fast enough, you're not a good enough leader. And when those voices start speaking, and they will speak in just as plain of voices, you can say back. Tell them to shut up. Those voices should never be louder than the voice of God. Ever. Never. Just tell them to shut up. Be quiet. That's not true. I don't believe it. If He calls you out, then step out. Embrace it. Believe it. You have the intellect, you've got the desire, the willpower, the self-discipline. You've got the strength, you've got the courage, you've got the stamina, you have the resources. And guess what? If you don't, In your weakness, He's made strong. What you don't have, He does. And we shouldn't be the Christians that just leaves it all to God to do. So many times, God, would you do this for me? And God say, yep, I'll do my part, now you do yours. And then we're set back and we just wait and we wait and we wait and we hesitate thinking, okay, God, when are you going to show up? God's like, already showed up. When are you going to do your part? And that's where we get stuck sometimes. Our hesitation, not His. Ours, not His. I'm sure Gideon was like, oh, hey, God, and actually he did. He was like, okay, God, and he got 32,000 people, the warriors that he has. And Gideon says, well, God, I don't know. I know you're God, and you told me you give me everything. I got 32,000 people. I don't think it's enough. God says, oh, really? Okay, I'll just take some away. And that number quickly went from 32,000 or whatever to 10,000. And Gideon's like, oh, now it's God, really? I think you heard me wrong. You misunderstood. You went the wrong direction because 10,000 isn't enough. God says, okay, how about 300? Sometimes God will allow us to get to a place to where He is all that we have, to get us to see that He is all that we need. If He calls you, step out. By His power, you win. Don't hesitate. If God calls you to go, then go. In His strength, you have. Now, sometimes we look and go, man, the war's too big. How can I ever win this war? Stop looking at the big war. Just win the battle. Stop looking at the whole thing and just win the battle that's in front of you. Start there. Don't be overwhelmed by the war. Understand that God has given you what it takes to win the battle. Maybe you're addicted to something. And maybe in your mind, you're like, man, I can't overcome this. And it could be any type of addiction. The temptation with addiction is such a big deal. And so many times, people that are addicted, and whatever, I don't care what it is, but, and it's like, oh, I got to beat this addiction. I got to beat this. When honestly, you just need to beat the battle that's in front of you on that day. Because if the temptation comes and you say no, you've won your battle. You have won that battle right there. That one, in the moment. That's it. And then you know what? You face the next one because, come on, we all know Satan. We all know our enemy. He doesn't just roll over and play dead when we win one little battle. He's coming back. Temptation's going to come back. You win that battle when that battle's there to fight. Win the one that's in front of you right now and then celebrate it. I whipped that. I won that today. I did this today. It makes you stronger. Speak it out loud to your face in a mirror. I won that today. I'm strong enough today. Some of you need to start physically telling yourself that you're worth something, that you're strong enough and you're good enough, and start listening to the quiet voices in the background that are telling you that you're not. I won that today. I did that today. I can do that tomorrow. Maybe getting healthier is a big deal. It's a big deal for me. It's so hard. Maybe you need to lose some weight. I have a number. Maybe I could never lose that. Push the Twinkie away. Walk away from the free donuts at church and eat the protein. That, by the way, the eggs and the sausage and the cheese this morning, the bomb. All protein. Good stuff. Sitting right next to all that sugary goodness. And I am a sugar nut. I like something sweet every meal. Every meal. I grew up watching my grandfather basically eat something sweet every meal. Am I not right? Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Yep. If you had biscuits and gravy in the morning, when you were done with biscuits and gravy, you had biscuits and honey. I don't like honey. I have biscuits and syrup. I'll have a huge plate of biscuits and gravy, bacon, sausage, whatever it is, and when I'm done, butter and syrup. It's a learned thing, and I like it. There was always something sweet in the house. Cake, pie, cobbler, didn't matter what it was. If there wasn't anything sweet, then the honey came out on a piece of bread or a piece of cornbread. It didn't matter what it was. My grandpa even thought milk or buttermilk and cornbread was good. And I couldn't never get that, but I can remember him watching him eat that out of a cup, and I'm like, that is the nastiest thing. Oh, son, it's good. Never could go there, but I like sweets, so it's hard for me when I walk up and I see all of this sugary goodness. But you know what? Today, I won a battle. All I had was eggs. Now tomorrow, actually for lunch, I may fail. But I won this morning. I won this morning. Maybe today there's a war for purity in your mind. Because for years and years, you programmed your mind on lustful thoughts and images. And you think, how in the world could I ever be pure right here? How? And you know what? It's hard. And I know it's, ladies, I know it affects you in a way, but guys, this is a battle. It's a battle that we have and a battle that we fight, so I'll address it really quickly. Win the battle that's in front of you. Win the battle in the moment. Now, you can't control what pops up on a screen inadvertently. You can't control who walks by you. But you can control if you look again. You have control over that. I shared this morning in the first service when I used to travel with Buddy, and we were on the road for a couple of years, doing evangelistic outreaches and revival services and different things. And we stayed in a lot of hotels, and it was a rule in our hotel we did not channel surf. We didn't do it. We didn't pick up the remote and just start thumbing through the channels. We would look at the guide, and we knew where ESPN was. And that's basically the extent of our TV watching. We'd watch a ball game. Or if we knew there was some, a ball game on CBS or something like that, that's where we would go. We did not channel surf. And it wasn't because we were tempted. It's because we didn't want to be. Because you're in a hotel room all by yourself, thumbing through. Something pops on, catches your eye, and there's a return button. You can win the battle. Win the battle. Face it. Face it. Struggles may be real, but you can win it. Win that battle. What if your kid's going the wrong way and you haven't stepped in and you're just sitting back watching them as they make bad decisions? You know what? Stand up and parent your kids. I have failed at this. Miserably. Your kids are worth it. Sometimes, I don't want them mad at me. I don't care. I used to care. I didn't want my kids mad at me. I'm dad. I'm the cool guy, I'm dad. They don't get mad at dad. And I would sit back and I would watch bad decisions lead to more bad decisions. And I didn't have the guts to step in because I didn't want them mad at me. Listen, have the guts to sit down and have the tough conversations because you love them. They're worth it. They'll thank you someday. Win the battle. Look at what Scripture says in 2 Peter 1:3. God's divine power has given us everything we need for life and godliness through our knowledge of Him who's called us by His own glory and goodness. God's power has given you everything you need to accomplish everything that He's put in front of you. He has. Fear of failure, it's a big deal. But when you don't deal with it, the problem is this. It leaves us with something far worse. And that's the warrior's greatest pain. And that's regret. The warrior's greatest pain is regret. Waking up someday down the road going, gosh, how did I miss that? Why was I so scared? Where would I be today if I would have done that? Now, we all have regrets of mistakes that we've made in the past. I'm talking about regrets from not doing what we knew we were supposed to. Not taking a chance, not taking a leap of faith, not applying for that job, not talking to our kids, not doing something different in your marriage that could have affected something in a different way. And then you look back and go, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I take a chance? Why was I so scared? Some of you are going to wake up one day and the greatest fear is going to lead to something much worse. And that'll be you looking back, oh my goodness. And then for years, you're going to deal with this feeling because you didn't give it a shot. Why didn't I apply for that job? And then we get to this place where we allowed our future or our fear to stifle our faith, and it affected our future. We get to that place where we allow our fear to stifle our faith, and then it affects our future. But I could get hurt. I could fail. Yep, I can assure you it's going to happen. But you'll never know if you don't try. And once again, I'll 100% guarantee you that if you don't try, it will never happen. So many stories of successful people that have failed time and time and time and time and time and time again. I would rather try and fail as fail to try any day. I would rather fall flat face in the mud every single day of my life. And then down the road look back and go, well, at least I gave it a shot. I didn't walk on water for very long, but at least I got to for a moment. God has created you with the heart of a warrior. He's given you a cause to fight for. But when you hesitate, you become vulnerable. But understand this, God has given you everything you need to accomplish what he puts before you. You have what it takes. So go in the strength that has been given to you and live like the spiritual warrior that God created you to be. Let's bow our heads and pray this morning. God, thank you for this word and this challenge. God, thank you so much, God, for speaking this into our lives. I'm thankful for examples like Gideon. And I know he wasn't perfect. Like Peter, I know he wasn't perfect. But God, you don't see us as we see ourselves. You don't even see us as others see us. You see us as how you have created us to be. And I'm thankful for that you don't give up on us. And even though we look at ourselves as being weak and as someone who couldn't do the things that you've asked us to do, you look down and you see a warrior. You see that person, that masterpiece working, that you desire to work towards those things that you planned for us long ago. And I'm thankful that you don't give up on us. Just like you didn't give up on Gideon. You didn't give up on Peter. But God, it is still our choice. You give us everything that we need, but it's up to us to put that to use. It's up to us to act on that and to use everything that you have given us, to do everything that you have planned for us. So God, today I pray, God, that we begin to face our fears, especially this fear of failure. God, we're not always going to get it right. There'll be sometimes, God, that failure is actually a part of your plan. Learning how to deal with that. I truly believe that. Learning how to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off and learn from our mistakes and push forward. Nothing wrong with that. I think it makes us stronger. I look at so many examples in your word of people that didn't get it right, but they kept going. They didn't quit when they had every reason and every right to quit, but they didn't quit. They kept going. They kept working harder. They kept battling. So God, today, give us the courage to do that. I trust you've already given us everything that we need. But it's up to us to put that to work. In Jesus' name.